What's going on, everyone? So, the Phoenix Suns are expected to run it back with their big three of Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. They had a very disappointing season last season. Even throughout the course of the season, they were the worst fourth quarter team in the league. They just never really seemed to click. They had so many holes and just issues and concerns, and then got into the playoffs, and it all kind of reared its ugly head. And there was a lot of questions of, okay, do they trade somebody? Do they trade Kevin Durant? Do they trade Devin Booker? Because you're probably not going to be able to trade Bradley Beal. And although they still may end up getting to that point, say trade deadline or maybe next off season, if the Phoenix Suns have another disappointing season again, I do think that there are a couple kind of factors that go in on the Phoenix Suns potentially being better. Now, when the deal went down, and they ended up acquiring Bradley Beal. Many of you may remember, made videos about it, and I said basically verbatim what happened for the season. All of the issues that I highlighted with their lack of defense, that I thought that the fit would be clunky. A lot of people don't think that a big three can work. I still believe it can. But the big three that you have need to complement each other. You look at all the big threes that had success over the course of the history, right? Like you look at like the Celtics with Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and then Ray Allen. They all played a different position, and they all had different skill sets that really complemented each other, right? LeBron, Wade, Bosh, again, same thing. All played different positions, all had skill sets that complemented each other. San Antonio with like Parker, Manu, and Tim Duncan, right? Complements each other. You kind of go through even the Cavs, right? With LeBron, Kyrie, Kevin Love, complement each other. The issue that the Suns have that hasn't changed and very likely won't change is all three guys are essentially the same player, just at different scales. Two of which, particularly in Bradley Beal and Devin Booker, are essentially the same player, and neither is really big enough to slot into another position, and neither is really skilled enough in the playmaking department to slide to a point guard position. But you will have another year of chemistry, right? That can go a long way. And I do actually like how they rounded out their roster this year compared to last year. And right off the bat, Tyus Jones, I think, is a very huge and potentially could be the most important piece for them. Obviously, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker are incredibly talented. But Tyus Jones, what he does is he's a guy that is a true playmaking point guard who can shoot and play off ball. Defensively, not great, right? Defensively has his concerns, but he has a good assist to turnover ratio. This is a guy that takes care of the basketball, which Phoenix really needs, and he's a guy that's going to be able to set everything up. I don't believe that they should have traded Bradley Beal or traded for Bradley Beal. I believe that they should have kept Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton, right? Because Chris Paul gave you that true point guard. You had enough offensive firepower with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, and then whatever Ayton gives you, whatever Chris Paul gives you. If you needed to trade DeAndre Ayton, you could have traded him for complementary pieces or more depth, whatever, right? Like there were options there, but you needed that true playmaker to put it together. Tyus Jones gives you that now. Tyus Jones isn't going to solve all of their problems, but he should help and go a long way because he'll be able to keep things in order throughout the course of the game, and in particular during the fourth quarter, right? Because you saw, if you watched Suns games, particularly in the fourth quarter, it was just so chaotic, right? There wasn't this real structure to the offense. It was just kind of get the ball to your three best guys and let them try to make up a play rather than running real sets, real actions. I'm not saying that they never did, but a lot of times it was just chaotic. And it kind of was closer to street ball because you have these great offensive talents where it's like, hey, just give them the ball and let them go to work. And it never had that flow. Well, now you got a guy in Tyus Jones who you can actually run sets with. you can actually make plays and get guys into specific spots. And, Mike Budenholzer, I think, is really going to benefit from having a guy in a Tyus Jones that can just be a real playmaker for this team, right? Whatever he gives you on the offensive side is just an added bonus. They just needed somebody that can really kind of set the table for your three stars. Tyus Jones brings that. Problem is how do you structure your lineup? So what are you going to do? You're going to go Tyus Jones, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Nurk? That's terrible defensively. 2, you have zero size. And 3, it's like, it still has, you see, it just still sounds even clunky. It even just feels clunky. And it's finding that balance. But here's the problem. 3 of the 5 guys you're going to have on the court that you're going to close games with and whatnot, all 3 of those guys have to be on the court because they're all being paid 40 plus. That's why Bradley Beal just doesn't make sense. Because if you had, you could go Tyus Jones, Okogie for that defensive point of attack guy, and then have Devin Booker and at least get some defensive pieces in there, right? And, it's just, again, it begs the question of, are they going to be able to generate enough offense to win games? And then defensively, are they going to be able to get enough stops? Or will their offense kind of offset the lack of defense? Something we're going to have to see. But another big thing is with Nurk. So Mike Budenholzer, based on his offensive and defensive schemes that he likes to run, requires a stretch big. And so there is footage going around of Nurk working on his game and slimmed down. I think he lost 15 pounds. I think they said 15, 20 pounds. So he slimmed down, and he's a guy that, basically gave you or could give you that level of shooting, such as a Brook Lopez. Problem is on the defensive side. Again, this team needs, as clunky and awkward as Rudy Gobert is, he'd kind of be perfect for this team, right? Just that big, physical, sizable center that can just protect the paint and block shots. Right? I understood the idea and logic on Nurk. It was, okay, his ability to make plays out of the post, right? You could kind of run your offense through him at times, right? He doesn't need the ball. He's not going to demand the touches. I understand the idea of him over Ayton, but I just don't think he is what you needed. I think you needed to keep Chris Paul and then trade Ayton for a rebounding and, even a Clint Capella probably would have been better. Guy that can get offensive rebounds, help get putbacks, right? Block shots, rebound. You don't need this versatile center because you have enough shooting and firepower and just overall offense. Now, my assumption is that Mike Budenholzer will run sets where you'll have Nurk at the top of the key and basically be creating the actions throughout, right? So you'll see with LeBron or Jokic, right? Guys the bigger guys. I know LeBron isn't a center, but he's still a bigger guy, right? Where he's at the top of the key and he's surveying and reading the defense and then making a play accordingly, right? And they have various actions that they're running. I think that Nurk will probably be in that role where he'll pull him out to the top of the key, and he's kind of the first initiator, right? And now you kind of get things flowing. Guys are coming off of screens and this, that, and the other. Kind of even like Draymond at times, right? You'll see Draymond top of the key, and you got Klay and Steph. Well, not so much Klay anymore, but back in the heyday, Klay and Steph. I think you'll have similar actions to that. I think that they'll probably play the 5 out, but Budenholzer usually plays the 1 in, 4 out offense. But, that was also because of Giannis. So does he kind of just go 5 wide now with Nurk? It's always a real possibility. Again, that could open up and make the offense more fluid, but still begs the question of defensively. And then another big piece that I think is important is Mason Plumlee. And the reason I like the acquisition of Mason Plumlee is it gives you, one, another big man that they needed, right? Because Bol and they're just not cutting it, right? And who is it? Jack Landale, right? They're just not cutting it, right? Mason Plumlee is a guy that gives you, some size, but gives you athleticism and a floor running big. So you can just kind of get out and transition. He gives you a different look from Nurk, where Nurk is kind of more back to the basket. Yeah, he can stretch the floor a little bit, but, he's best operating out of the post, where Plumlee is a guy that can run the floor, gives you energy, gives you effort, can help with the rebounding department, right? Like, he's a guy that I think you can just get different looks at. And even if Nurk really does become a legit three-point shooter, I'm not saying he has to shoot the lights out, but, at least serviceable enough. You could even have sets out there at times where maybe you have KD on the wing as the 3, have like Plumlee at the center, Nurk at the 4, particularly against those bigger teams, a team like Denver or a team like, Minnesota, kind of match up that way with KD on the wing at the 3, and then maybe go with like Book at the 2, and then go with Tyus at the point, something like that, to where you can kind of run it when Beal is on the bench. I think that, again, I like the idea of Plumlee just to give you that energy hustle guy, gives you a guy that can, when you're getting out in transition, you can kind of push the pace with, but just gives you a different tone from Nurk, right? Gives you a different just option and skill set that you don't get from Nurk. And so you can run different sets, different lineups, different rotations, that I think could go a long way with Plumlee. But overall, look, I definitely think that they improved this offseason. I definitely think Phoenix is a better team. I'm still not sold on them as a contender. Right? Could they, right matchups, stumble their way into the conference finals or something? Sure. Right? Even if they got to the NBA finals, no one would really be surprised. They got Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant, right? But I don't necessarily see them as this bona fide contender. I think it's still going to be incredibly clunky. I think they're still undersized. I think they still lack defense. And I think that they still have injury concerns, right? Bradley Beal isn't magically just going to heal from being injured once a week. I mean, that's what the guy is at this point. And then Kevin Durant, he was incredibly healthy last year compared to what he's been at times. And so can he maintain that level of health? Devin Booker has not been a great model of health the last few years, right? I still think your 3 main guys you have real injury concerns with. And then even when they are healthy, I still think it's clunky. I still think that they're going to have a lot of the same woes that they had last year. I think they're still going to have some of the fourth quarter woes, just because I think that they lack. It's a lot of, like, you have 3 guys that are best in the isolation. It's weird. It just doesn't necessarily work, right? Like, Kevin Durant worked with Steph and Klay because they were so good off ball and such excellent shooters. And Kevin Durant didn't need to take 30 shots a game to go get you 30 points, right? Like, Kevin Durant is so incredibly efficient, but so was Steph and Klay in their heyday, right? So you had 3 guys that all did kind of different things, but also didn't need the basketball, right? Like, again, you talk about big threes, and you look at the big threes that have had success, Klay, Durant, and Steph. I mean, you could even say Draymond, but like, it worked because, again, all 3 guys are incredibly unselfish. All 3 guys don't need the ball in their hands. All 3 guys are arguably more dangerous off ball than they are on ball. And all 3 guys are incredibly efficient. All those really kind of line up and balance out, where, you look with the Phoenix Suns, and it's just, they just don't have that with their 3 guys. Again, all 3 of these guys are essentially the same player, just again at different sizes and scales, right? Like, it's just, I don't see it working to the level in which they'll be good enough to win a championship, right? Will they get swept again? I don't think that, but I also wouldn't be shocked. Like, I feel Phoenix is, I mean, because you can look at it and go, man, but look at, even with the injuries, even with all the fourth quarter woes, even with everything, they still were a playoff team, right? They still, yes, they lost in the first round, got swept, but, they still were able to get to the playoffs. Like, another year, you get all that. You don't usually go from being a team that gets swept in the first round of the playoffs to now all of a sudden hoisting the Larry O'Brien trophy without some major significant changes. And there weren't these major significant changes. So I still don't buy Phoenix. I still think they're going to be roughly the same team that they were last year. I think maybe they'll be slightly better. But I think push comes to shove, I think they're at best a second round exit. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Are you somewhere in between? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.